Awesome. So, thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to join us. My name is Jackie Wogan. Also joining me is Alex Ralph. He is one of the co-founders at Platform. He also coaches our local high school football team. So, welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So one of our most frequently asked questions that we're getting right now is how can I check to see what my students are doing in Platform? Did they log a workout? How long did they spend doing that workout? Did they log any scores as a test result? Where can I find that? So our goal today is to touch upon the different tools in Platform that you can use to help you answer all those questions and help keep your kids accountable, as well as share some other ideas and best practices that we've learned and heard from other coaches and teachers. So that's our agenda today. Throughout the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A feature at any time to ask questions. We'll try to answer them as we go if they are relevant to the conversation or to the presentation. I also like to point out the chat feature is what you would want to use to share a message or comment to all of the attendees, whereas the Q&A feature will come just to us and we'll field all of those questions. So we are recording this right now. We will send it out to everyone that registered and post it on our community to be accessed and shared later. So we'll go ahead and dive in. Take it away, Alex.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, as Jackie said, this is really going to kind of focus on the broad topic of accountability, which can be accomplished in a number of ways. But obviously, the need for accountability is heightened in a remote or a hybrid setting where you don't have all 30 kids in front of you in view at all times. So what we want to do is just kind of talk through some of your different options through Platform to hold kids accountable, to make sure that you have a good grasp on what they're doing. So we'll kind of break it down into three components. First being the more cognitive side, second being participation based, and lastly being more benchmark testing in the form of pre and post testing. So as I said, we'll start on the cognitive piece. And the reasons why we like cognitive assessments is first that you can leverage your LMS, right? So if you're using Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, really simple to use that for the purpose of assignments and assessments. You can get kids to answer quizzes very easily through the LMS, which is built for grading. So in this way, you can mimic a lot of those more traditional classes like a history class or a math class. They're also probably the most straightforward to track. It's a simple matter of, did you read the article or watch the video and answer the questions? So, in terms of holding the kids accountable, that's a very straightforward path. And then it can cover a wide range of topics, right? So we have options, as we'll touch on, for nutrition, along with a number of other topics. So you have a lot at your disposal. And there's no real time restraints. A lot of times, I think with different workouts, sometimes you need to, fill 90 minutes or you only have 20 minutes. So, the cognitive piece, I think, is just a bit more flexible when it comes to time domains. And so what we'll take a look at on the cognitive side through Platform is the different options, which certain programs have written assessments to accompany them. Other programs are built for the cognitive piece. And then you can also create your own. So we'll kind of touch on those various components. So I'm just going to hop into an account here. So first, where we would go for this various content is to the programs page. So obviously it depends a little bit on what program you're using. A lot of people right now are using our foundational programs, which would be Fit 101 as well as Fit 102. And so with these more introductory programs, we do have written assessments that accompany these programs. And you can find those through your Manage button in your general info. So once in your general info, you'll notice there's a downloadable program guide. This will download for you and you can open that up. And within this PDF, among other things such as a course overview, syllabus, you're also going to have the physical assessment that's included, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, but also the written assessment. So this written assessment is based off of the program. So this is a great way to, have just different facets of the 101 program. Obviously, there will be participation, there will be some pre-post testing available to you, and then this can make sure that kids are digesting the information and can answer the questions. There's also your teacher answer guide that references where some of those answers are coming from. So, you can approach this in a few different ways. One common way, though, is to give the written assessment at the start so that kids are paying close attention as they go through the program. They know they have to answer the questions. You can obviously also just use it at the end if you would like. So these, again, are found through the Manage tab, right? They exist for 101, 102, as well as the 200s. So those are a very popular option. And then you also have at the bottom likely of your account are the 2 EDU options. So these are more standalone cognitive pieces. Nutrition is a nutrition ebook. And this has a number of different chapters here focusing on the various macronutrients and then transitioning into meals. And so this offers a ton of great content that you can use as you see fit. Each chapter has different lessons with chapter questions.
Yeah, and each chapter is a combination of text and video, so I think it's easily absorbed by the students, and they have their associated chapter questions with it. I always just like to give a quick plug about the nutrition program. We've gotten a lot of good feedback because it is vetted for a middle school or high school audience. So as Alex kind of skimmed through those sections, this is a very much introductory program. That's why we gave it the 101 label, but we do start by kind of introducing the science of nutrition through the different macronutrients. So protein, carbs, and fats, what are those? And then we sort of layer on, okay, now that you know the science of nutrition, here's how to apply it to your everyday life through meals. And that's what part 2 is on. We focus on breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinner. So very applicable to the middle school, high school audience, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And the other side of the EDU coin would be the assignments. And the assignments are just a more broad-ranging focus of fitness. So you'll see different articles or video podcasts in here that are available to you, such as The Power of Fitness, which talks about the importance of fitness and physical education in today's educational system. And you'll see that this, being an article, is available along with questions at the end. So each one of these assignments, again, is going to be either a video or an article. Each one has, at the end of it, the questions that you'd be able to assign. It's, I think, important to talk about with these EDU programs, the best practices for how to use them. You can, of course, assign them to students through platform the same as you would with a program. The only caveat is that platform is not necessarily built for quizzes just yet. So you can't, ask kids to answer these questions, solicit the feedback through the app, and then grade it. That's really what your LMS, like a Google Classroom, is better suited for. So a lot of ways that we see teachers using the nutrition program or using the assignments is to actually pull this content out, recreate it within your LMS system by simply copying and pasting, and then choosing the questions you want to leverage and having the kids respond through your LMS. And then that way you can grade them directly in your Google Class or your Canvas. So it's all right there and available to you. So again, it's pretty simple to just pull out this information and put it into your LMS and use it in that way. And that would be the same for the 101, right? You could take those questions out, build them directly into your LMS as kind of a quiz option. Important for both of these EDU programs, again, if we access manage, in the general info, both of these have an answer guide, right? So you'll definitely want to make yourself aware of the answer guide. It's going to have all the resources for you as a staff member to make sure that you have kind of what you're looking for when it comes to the responses from the kids. So again, that's going to be through the manage, and those links will be available for you to kind of extract the answers out. They also both exist in a separate Google Doc, right? So it's really easy to kind of pull the information out of here as you need to. So those are, just some of the different cognitive pieces. The one other component is the ability to basically, create your own quizzes or assessments through platform, right? Because if you're using 101, for example, what you'll notice is that every lesson has really detailed written instructions. So for example, in 101, lesson 1, we're focusing on the hinge. And so within this video and within the written notes, you have coaching points for each. So you could very easily, if you're assigning lesson 1, add into your assignment, what is the main coaching point for the good morning, right? Same goes for the air squat, right? There are 4 points of performance here. So you could very easily ask kids, what are the 4 points of performance for the air squat? So that just adds an extra layer of accountability onto them participating in the workout, because without actually being in there, watching the videos, reading the text, they're not going to be able to answer those questions. So for a lot of teachers who, as we'll talk about with our activity, and timestamp, they always ask, can kids just game the system? This is just one extra layer of accountability, ensuring that they're able to digest the information and relay that back to you. One other, kind of cool item that we've seen teachers leverage is different content from our homepage. So we post very regularly to this homepage. The information here that you'll see, we have different performance posts. These also go to your students. And so you always have the ability to find some information here, such as a focus on the lunges. And so very easily you could, copy the video link. You could basically create an assignment off of these, asking kids to watch the video or read the post in their account and answer certain questions. So again, these all do take a little bit of creativity on your side, but it is a great option and a very popular one amongst our teachers right now, because again, it is all cognitive based, and it's a really straightforward way to assess kids in terms of if they're doing the work or not. Jackie, do you have anything to add on the cognitive side? Did I miss anything that you think is relevant before we move to the participation side?
No, that was all great. I think I'll just drive the point home, and I like the way you said it when we connected on this, but for the portion that Alex just covered, the cognitive pieces, what we're trying to do here is just provide you as many resources as we can to help you in this time of remote learning, and you can use them as you see fit. The second portion of what Alex is going to get into is really what platform was built for, which is more so providing you with their physical training insights and tracking them that way. And so you'll find that the second part of the presentation is a much more interactive way of tracking accountability, whereas all the resources Alex just touched upon, we've sort of created for you, and we've delivered them to you in many different formats so that you can easily copy and paste and use as you think best for your class. But yeah, the next part I think is going to be a little more interactive and kind of what we were built for.
Yeah, so I think that's a good segue into the participation piece. Participation grading, it's nothing new. You've probably done this before, but the benefits of just grading based on participation is that, effort takes no talent, right? So we're not grading them on their skills in a basketball unit. How well can they shoot a free throw? We're simply assessing, are they moving and are they participating? Are they doing the assignment? Are they active for the given amount of time that we're looking for? And I think, in today's world, especially, getting kids active is a win, right? So participation can just be a great way to assess kids. And there's right now kind of two approaches to that. You have more of a synchronous mode and an asynchronous mode. So the synchronous mode, for those unfamiliar with the term, is more of a live workout, right? So traditionally, if you had a class, right, that's synchronous. You have the kids in front of you, everybody's doing it at the same time. Some schools are attempting to recreate that through Zoom and Google Hangouts. And Jackie and Doug actually hosted a webinar on that yesterday. We can always make that available to you in terms of how you can leverage those resources to kind of recreate that live class model. But for the asynchronous model, this is when you say, hey, we're going to have a few assignments a week, 3 workouts, and you have to get them done by the end of the week, or you can do it any time of the day. Obviously, it's a little tougher now because you don't have the kids in front of you. You can't see them participating. So you need some extra tools to assess whether they're actually doing what they're supposed to. And that's where some of the platform features will come into play. So as we tab back here, I think the first thing that might be useful is to take a look at the student's side and how they basically access and do a workout, and then take a look at how you'd assess that from the staff's angle. So this is a student account here. And as a student, I'd make my way to the workout, right? So likely you've told them, hey, we're doing Fit 101, Lesson 1. They're able to tap in, and now they have access to that program, and they'll find Lesson 1. They'll tap in to Fit 101, and they can now start that workout. When they basically hit start workout, there is a timer that has now been initiated. This is an active session. We are now measuring each step and how long the ultimate workout's going to take from the time they start to the time they finish. So as they come in, they would watch the intro video. They'll be able to mark that done. Now they're into the warm-up. They're going to watch the Spider-Man and Reach. They're going to perform that for the specified time domain and continue to make their way through. If you're using Fit 101, 102, or the 301 Fitness Anywhere program, as a lot of schools are right now, they're really all built in the same kind of model here, ending with a finisher. So the finisher is just one piece of data that you'll be able to collect along with this. So in this case, they would do their finisher, and they're going to be able to log their result. They'll hit done. And basically at this point, they're 6 of 7 complete. So when they finish watching the wrap up, this is ultimately going to end that session. It's going to end that workout. And that now shows as 7 of 7 exercises completed, along with the timestamp, right? And in this case, it was only 1 minute and 31 seconds. Obviously, you're looking for a bit longer than that. If you're working with the 100 programs, probably closer to 30 minutes. So that's basically how the kids would go through that workout. And so then as the teacher, you have 2 ways to monitor what kids have done. So through the web, we could come into our groups page, and I could say, okay, I want to check out my period 1 group. And you can use the drop down here to drill in to the student's profile. And in this case, I can see all the days attended by Michelle, meaning that she participated in a workout. And I can also use the log history to see a stream of all the workouts that she's done. And this goes back as long as you really want it to. So the web's a really good way to drill down deep into one individual and see their historical record of workouts. So you'll see that the workout I just completed here, Fit 101, Section 1, Lesson 1, minute 31, 7 of 7, along with the finisher. So this is one way to do it. If you do have a really large class size, though, the web might not be the most efficient path of making your way through. So what I'll just do here quickly is pull up the staff app. The staff app can be a really nice analytical tool to monitor more of a larger group at a quicker glance. So while we wait for this to load up, Jackie, did we have a question or anything you wanted to touch on?
No questions yet. I missed some in the chat. So let's see, what does the student fill in when it asks value? Oh, all good questions. Okay. So when a student's logging the finisher, it says value, and then the value is going to differ depending on what we're asking them to log. So, and it depends on the way the finisher is written. So some finishers, we're asking them to time themselves. We're asking them to do a certain amount of reps or rounds of a workout and to time themselves. So in that case, it would be a time. We're really usually pretty clear in the instructions about what to log. So yeah, Alex has popped into a student view of a workout. It says, when you're done, simply add the number of reps you completed in total. So in this case, we're actually asking them to count their reps. Other instances, we're asking them to log their time. When they click log test result, if it's asking for a time, it will have the semicolon indicating that we're looking for a time in minutes and seconds. Whereas in this one where it says value, if they read the notes, they'll see that we're asking for number of reps. So great question. Let's see, is there a way to view a group list instead of going to each student's log history? So I think that's where Alex is going to go next. Someone asked another great question that we've heard a lot. Do you have an estimated time for each workout? So obviously when you're going in and you can see a timestamp on how long it took them, the question is, how long should it take them? Is this a reasonable amount of time to spend or not? Great question. That information lives in a couple different places. Most of our programs, if you click into more details, I actually recently added it in there, like more details, yep, through the manage button, or excuse me, general info. Oh, it didn't show up there yet. But yeah, it is in the program guide. So I'm working on getting it into this page here. But the program guide does include an average workout length for each program. So I can tell you that 101 typically takes between 30 and 45 minutes. And then Fitness Anywhere, I believe we've outlined as an average of 30 minutes per workout.
Yeah, and it'll certainly depend on some external factors. If you were doing it in a synchronous model and kind of watching the videos as a class through Zoom or in person, and then having them perform the movements and kind of going exercise by exercise, that's a popular approach for the 100s. That's going to take a little bit longer than if the kids are doing it independently, you know, generally watch the videos a bit quicker, and you might see it, you know, trend down closer to, as Jackie said, like 30 minutes. But I think as a rule of thumb, you know, the 100s are generally 30 minutes, 301, you know, about that same time domain, maybe a little bit longer depending on the day. So those are just kind of some rough ballparks, but Jackie, as she mentioned, is adding them into the general info section as well.
Yeah, so we had one other question, which Alex, it might be worth popping back into the student view because I think this is a good one to cover. So in our videos, verbally, they're very instructor-led. We purposely made them that way for virtual learning so that we can hope to be the instructor in the room with your students. And oftentimes we'll tell them to pause. We really mean like, so the video will actually play out, and the idea is they are now no longer watching the video, they're getting up from their computer and pausing to do the workout. I think that terminology has thrown people off because there's also a pause button at the top of the workout. So when Alex clicks start workout as a student, you'll notice that it switches to a pause button, pause workout. So Kristen asked this question, and I've gotten a few questions similar to this one. So just to explain how that pause button is meant to work, when that is there for if the student's session gets interrupted for any reason, and they need to pick back up later. So for example, mom made dinner and they're going to stop in the middle of their workout and finish recording that or logging that session later. When they click pause, it's actually going to end that session. But then you'll notice the next time Alex goes back into that same section, it will take him exactly to where he left off. So he has the ability to click start again. It does start a new session technically, but had he marked some workouts complete, the next time he were to go back into that same lesson, it would pick him back up where he left off. Yeah. On your end as the teacher, you're going to see that they completed the whole session, but that they did it in two different sessions, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, just when the video says to pause, we're really just saying to go do the actual sets prescribed. The pause workout should really only be used when there is going to be a substantial stopping of the workout, such as, dinner time or, going to practice or whatever it may be. Even if a kid forgets to pause, and this probably is an important piece just when it comes to analytics and understanding, if a kid had started the workout and mom called for dinner and he just ran away from the computer and went to eat dinner and forgot all about the workout, there is a mechanism in the system that after 60 minutes of inactivity, it'll close out that session and it'll basically timestamp it to the time of the last action, right? So in this case, it would say, okay, when did they last complete this exercise? And that would basically give you an accurate reading of how long they were in there. So it wouldn't show a 70-minute session. It would show, probably 10 minutes if that's how long it took them to get to that third exercise before they left the computer. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, so just to summarize, when we say pause verbally in the videos, the instructor says pause, we mean, stop watching the video that we've demonstrated what you need to do, break away from your computer and do it, and then reconvene and watch the next video. Whereas the pause function in there is really when they need to take a break from actually logging their session and come back later. So fair question. We have another good question that relates to logging workouts. Rick has asked, is there any way to log in as a student that's going to be doing the program if they don't have their device with them? So that is where RackView would come in. Alex, I don't know if you want to pull up your student account again. Sorry for all the back and forth. RackView is a feature we have that has not been getting a lot of action in virtual learning because most kids are at home. They're not partnering up and they have their own devices. But this feature does exist. It allows up to 5 kids to access their own workouts through one device. So it was really built for when you're, in school and you want to limit the amount of devices in the weight room, perhaps. So you have kids buddy up or group up and access all of their workouts and log all of their workouts through one device. So that's what RackView was built for. You'll notice when Alex hits confirm after creating his RackView, there's now a tab at the top of the screen for each of the students he selected in his RackView. And each one of those students can access their assigned workout and log their individual workouts through that one device.
Yeah.
Nice to give RackView some love.
Yeah, it's not going to use much anymore. Yeah, probably worth just circling back to kind of where we were in terms of checking participation, right? So we kind of took a look at your path to monitor the kind of the log history of students through the web, which again is good for the individual because you can see all of their kind of stream of activity. But as I think somebody asked, what if I want to see, my activity on a group basis? And that's really where I think the app is better suited. So if you download the app on your phone or a tablet, sign in with your staff credentials, The tab you'll really want to use is the activity tab. And you can set this to a group or groups and any given day. And you're able to come in, and at the end of that day, you're going to be able to see all completed workouts, right? And so I'll have a list view here of my class, and I can choose, and I think this is important, I can choose to sort it in a few different ways. So I can sort it by name, right? If I just have my Google roster and I'm grading, I can just go right in alphabetical order. I can do it by progress, right? So how far through the workout they got, right? 9 out of 9, 8 out of 9, 7 out of 9, but also time spent, right? So I think time spent's a great way because you can sort it top to bottom, and that would show you, if you went from shortest to longest, it would show you all the kids that logged a minute, 2 minutes, 1 minute worth of workouts. And you could very easily see who didn't hit, the desired threshold of say 25 or 30 minutes. And then if you want to drop in for more details, right? So if you're seeing multiple sessions, right, you can always use the icon here to drop in and see a detailed overview like we did on that weblog history of this day's activity. And if there were multiple sessions, they would show session 1, session 2. If they did 2 different workouts, like a EDU assignment and a workout, those would show here too. So this still gives you that, more in-depth view of the individual, but also I think it's just more efficient to go through the entire class. And the one other piece on this activity page is the report tab. So if you happen to have, a class of 9th through 12th graders and you're using multiple workouts, the one benefit of the report tab is that it will break it down by the different program. So you could see who was doing 102, who was doing 311, or whatever programs you may have available. So it's, the same type of information, just a different type of view. You're viewing it by the program rather than by the individual. Additionally, you have a test results tab. So if you're using Fit 101 and you did lesson 1, you should see the Fit 101 finisher here with all of the various results that were logged, and you'd be able to go down. So again, I think it adds an additional layer of accountability. If everybody logged a finisher that was between 8 and 12 minutes, and then you had one kid who logged a finisher that was 2 minutes, right? That might let you know that, hey, that doesn't stack up. That seems impossible, right? So it's just, again, another way to kind of verify that they did what they were supposed to, because the kids often don't know what an actual good result should be for the finisher. So if they're trying to kind of fabricate results, that finisher makes it a bit tougher when you can compare it to the rest of the class.
Yeah, so a lot of times teachers are wanting solid, hard proof on what was done, and we don't video or film the students. We don't have that capability. But what I always tell teachers that I work with is we're giving you at least 3 pieces of data that you can work off of. So we're telling you the timestamp that they took them to log their workout. We're telling you the number of exercises completed. So each one of those done buttons that we saw in the student view, that translates to that 7 out of 7 that you see here on the activity report. And then lastly, we're going to give you a test result. So whether it's the timed or logged finisher, or if we're testing a certain fitness metric that week, you have access to that. So I think between those 3 metrics that we're able to show you, you can get a good picture. As Alex showed you, like if you just look at the test results, that's a good way to see outliers and red flags. So hopefully you can kind of use those 3 pieces of information and get a good picture of what's really going on within your class.
Yeah. And we'll also talk about kind of the third component of this is the pre and post testing. And that's a nice kind of counterbalance to participation. If you have them do a test at the beginning of the semester and the end of the semester, if they had 100% participation, but their push-up total went backwards, that can generally tell you that, maybe that participation wasn't entirely accurate. And that's just kind of kind of one piece of the puzzle. Before we jump there, the one thing maybe worth just teasing a little bit out, because we've gotten a lot of requests for it. We know that, going individual by individual on the web is not the most efficient. And so we are working on a new web update that will basically bring a lot of that same app information to the web along with some additional views. And so this is in the works right now. It will be a web dashboard, and you'll have a day, week, and a monthly view. And so similar to the app that we saw on the day view, you'll be able to see the breakdown of the workouts, the time spent. It'll give you a class average as well. If you're doing it asynchronously, right, it'll show you kind of the popular times that kids are working out and any of the test results that may have been logged that day. And you'll be able to drill down into those. But just like with the app, we could go see all. So we had 41 sessions logged, and it's got that same information, same ability to drill down into that workout card for any individual. But I think the big piece will be that in addition to the day, there's also a week view. So at the end of the week, you could very easily come in and just see, okay, how many days did they work out? And by each day, did they hit the appropriate amount of exercises and time? So it'll just provide, I think, a much more efficient path to grading on a weekly basis, as I believe most teachers are doing. So just wanted to show this because, you know, it is coming. We are working on that. Don't have a specified date, but, you know, hopefully sometime in November if I had to put a ballpark on it. So this is in the works for sure. We think it'll be super helpful. In the meantime, though, I think your app is the best and most efficient way to assess a large class, while on the web, using the groups and the player information is a better path if you really want to see what one individual has done over a given time frame. So lastly here is the benchmark piece, right? And we kind of alluded to this just now, but benchmark testing, you know, what we really mean by that is some form of pre and post testing, assessing kids' progress over a given length of time. And the reason why this is very useful is it's quantitative, so very easy to measure. And to improve, you actually need to participate, right? So as I mentioned, it's a nice counterbalance to simply checking activity, because if they actually want to improve their mile time or their push-up result, that is going to take some actual hard work on their end to participate in the workouts. And again, as I alluded to, that's kind of how we balance out the participation grading. And so the way to do this is, you know, the traditional pre and post testing, which is probably nothing new to anybody on this call. The considerations, though, I think are experience level, right? Are we dealing with 8th graders who've never done any training before, or are we dealing with varsity athletes? That's going to maybe influence what tests and when we do those tests. And then within platform, we'll talk about, you know, different programs have kind of different approaches to testing. And so that's something that you definitely want to be aware of. And we do get a lot of questions on. So we'll turn back here to the account. And as we look at the programs, we'll touch on the programs that seem to be the most popular right now, which would be the 101, 102, and the Fitness Anywhere program. So within our 100s, if we go into preview, what you'll notice here is that we have 5 sections, 3 lessons each, so 15 total lessons. And then this program culminates in a baseline fitness testing. These are all body weight based tests that could be done at home. The reason we put it in the final week is the assumption on our end is that these kids are new to training. So we want to build up some form and technique and a little bit of capacity before we have them go and do something like an air squat test, right? It'd be tough to test kids in algebra before we ever taught them anything about algebra. Same type of approach here. So that's why it comes at the end of this program. And then what we would normally do is after 101, we would transition into 102. This is where we're building on what we learned in 101. And so at the end of this program, we likewise have another fitness assessment. So the pre and the post data points in the 100s actually come in the different programs. You're getting your pre-test in 101, your post-test in 102. Now, obviously, that's in an ideal world if you're going to be able to make it through 101 and 102. If you're not able to do that, maybe you only have 16 classes, maybe you're comfortable testing the kids at the start. You can always say, hey, we're going to use these tests, but I'm going to have kids do them at the start and at the end, right? So kids could log their mile time before the program and at the end of the program. So, that does take a little bit of, just determination on your end in terms of, how the 101, 102 are going to map onto your semester length and when you feel comfortable doing those tests and finding 2 data points to be able to assess them. In the 301 program, because this is a 300 level program, we're assuming that there is a foundation in place, that these kids are a bit more experienced. And so from the get-go, in this program, you'll see that each week has a fitness challenge. And so from the very first week, we're collecting, in addition to those finishers, we're also collecting a data point here for something like a push-up test. There's 5 different tests in this program, and then they repeat starting in block 6. So blocks 1 through 5, different tests. Blocks 6 through 10, those tests are repeated. So those have natural kind of pre and post data points built in. Again, you have to use your judgment to say, hey, we're not going to get through all 10 blocks, so maybe we'll do 2 fitness challenges per week, right? That's all things that you can kind of determine on how you want to do those. If you want to go outside of the platform programs for your testing, right? So in the examples we just gave, maybe you need to test sooner than our programs offer. You have the ability to, or I should say kids have the ability to log tests whenever you instruct them. So they have an analytics tab, and they can set up this test results section with whatever tests you ultimately instruct them, right? So if you said, hey, we're testing in the mile, the push-up, right, curl up, I've kind of already checked all those off, but they can just add them here as tiles. And then if you tell them either, through your LMS, in person, on a Zoom call, say, hey, this week you need to do the mile time, right? They can simply go run the mile, come in, and they could log their time, right? So when it comes to the testing, you can, again, use the testing that's built in naturally to the programs. But if you want to, you can always have them log those tests at any given point. Then when it comes time to run your reports, if we come to the report tab, you have the ability to add a report. And you can search and add any exercises. So if you want to just do a mile time, you could just do a mile time. If you want to have it for multiple tests, you could add additional tests. So you could have one for push-up and the 1 mile, for example. You'll notice I already have a few set up here. So if we take, for example, the push-up test, we can apply filters here. We generally like the percentage filter because it's more indicative of the progress that individual made against their first data point. You can set your date range, you can set your group, apply that filter, and that'll show you the progress that each individual made over that given length of time. You can also download those reports as well. And so this is, I think, a really nice way to assess those benchmark tests at the end of a semester. Jackie, any new questions pop in there, or did I miss anything you think that was important on the, kind of the benchmark testing?
No, I think you covered it all. I think you kind of showed people, like, we have outlined some tests that are built into our programs, but you're not glued to those. You can test them in anything else you want. Alex just sort of reviewed how you can create those views for yourself or your own dashboard within the testing page and the reports page, and then how your students can log them on their own. So yeah, that's important to take away. I think, no, we had a lot of questions about rack view, but I think I answered them all.
Okay. Yeah, I did see one question just on, do we have the
Oh,
curl up?
curl
Yeah,
up. Yep.
we have a lot of tests. We have all the traditional presidential and FitGram. So yeah, if you came into a report, you could always search for really any test that that you're looking for and see if it's available. So I think you'll find most everything that you're looking for is available there.
Yeah, it might be worth showing them the test page too, and how they would use that.
Yeah,
Since
so
it moved.
yeah, so on the home page, you do have some shortcuts here for, viewing attendance by the week or logging test results. So this would generally be used if, as a staff member, you were, logging the results. It's just a nice way to come in, say, okay, we last tested on 8/19 and Michelle had a 31. We just retested and Michelle got a 36, right? Obviously, if you're remote, probably going to have the kids logging their results themselves. But if you prefer this view, some use this just to see the dates associated, right? So just a different kind of view of the same information. And you can, again, just like we added a report, you could set up and then we would just simply search for whatever test we wanted to add. And we'd be
Yeah,
able to save
so
that.
we're pointing out like why you'd use each page. Sometimes I direct people here when they say like, how do I edit an errant test result? So a kid entered something incorrectly, they don't know how to change it. This is where you as a staff or teacher would create your dashboard view of the test that you like to track for your kids, and it's a place for you to view and input results or edit results. Whereas the reports page, you can't make changes to the actual data points on that page. That is more so a view that you can then export and download if you want to, and view progress as well. So that change over time is where you would go, or what you would get out of the reports page versus the testing page here.
Yep. Yep. And one thing just to note is you definitely want to check your settings, especially if you're a new account getting started, because the default settings for the ability to enter test information is set to staff only. You probably want to open that up to allow kids to enter in those finishers or any of those test results. Again, pre-COVID, a lot of staffs would start with this locked and they would enter in those results on that testing page that we just saw. Obviously, with kids being more remote, you're going to have to give them a bit more responsibility when it comes to entering in that data.
Yeah, and another thing, if you're not sure like which tests that we track in which program, that's another piece of information that you can find in those program guides that live in the general info tab on each program. So within the program guide that Alex has pulled up earlier, in there too, right on general info, we lay out the tests that we track baked into that program.
Yep. So this is like the program guide, and these exist for all the programs. Whoops. Right. So it has those assessments here as well. Yeah, I mean, that's what we wanted to cover, and we were able to get a lot of good questions in during, the presentation. But if there's any remaining questions, feel free to pop those into the Q&A or the chat forum.
Yeah, so we'll hang out here for another minute or so, or as long as questions come in. Maybe while we're hanging out, walk through like one example. We just threw a lot of testing or assessment resources and tools at people, maybe walking through like an example of what that might all look like put together in Fit 101. So like Fit 101, the couple resources or tools we covered specific to that program. The first one Alex showed us was that written assessment, which you can get in the program guide. Some teachers like to do a pre-test with that so that the kids can see the questions and know what they should be looking out for and learning when they actually do the program. So yeah, Alex pulled up the program guide. The written assessments are here. You can use this as we designed it as a post-test, but totally optional to also give as like a pre-test. So they have access to it before the program. Baked into the program, we are going to be doing basically a daily score with that finisher. So that's kind of like a daily test result that they are logging. And then baked into the end of that Fit 101 program are those baseline fitness assessments that we do at the end. So you're automatically, if you're following this program digitally in platform, the kids are going to be asked to record scores for fitness assessments at the end of it. And they're also being asked to log their daily finisher. So outside of that, whatever else you want to assess them on is up to you, whether you want to pull in those written assessments, distribute those before, after, or both. Just an example of all the different tools and how you'd apply them to that one program. We did have a question saying, what if students do not have access to gym equipment? So most of our programs that we covered today are with limited to no equipment. So Alex touched on Fit 101. He also touched on Fitness Anywhere. Those are really popular programs that are getting used right now in remote learning at home. I'm assuming maybe we got that question because of some of the test results, like a curl up requires a bar. The test results that we've included in our remote programs are body weight and can be done at home.
Yeah, so all the tests in 101 and 301C Fitness Anywhere, as Jackie said, are body weight based tests that can be done, maybe with the exception of a pull up if you see that, but that's something you can always skip if you need to. But in terms of the best programs for remote training, certainly 101 at the more foundational level, 301C Fitness Anywhere, for those that are slightly more experienced.
So we did have a question about leaderboards.
Yeah.
And we didn't go there. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so leaderboards are, certainly a great tool when it comes to, using leveraging the test data. You'll see there's 3 default platform leaderboards. Truthfully, these are probably a bit outdated for where we are now. They're more, weightlifting based and speed agility based. So you'll probably want to create your own leaderboards. And so you can create a leaderboard, choose the type. Again, if you're not using maxes like a squat, bench, clean, you're going to want to use the rank category. This is for everything non-weight training. And you have the ability to set up a leaderboard for any test metric, as well as combine them on one leaderboard. So totally up to you if you want to build it individual per movement and test, or if you want to combine those on one general leaderboard. But basically, you're able to set that up and then assign it to your group, right? Or groups if you want to. And that will place those in your students' accounts. So for example, the air squat challenge, using the air squat, this is going to show, right, my top 5 performers for that. And then I can also go full screen and I can see a full list of my class with all of the results there. And I can also print that out or save it to a PDF if I wanted to. So that can be nice.
Yeah, and I'll just point out the leaderboards are really the only way that students can see other students' test results. So without leaderboards, the test results are only shown to the teacher or staff members that have access to platform. But if you do build leaderboards, the kids that are in the groups that are attached to each leaderboard are going to have access to the leaderboard.
Yeah, so for those that are more privacy minded and don't want kids showing up, it is worth making them aware that in their account they can choose not to participate in the leaderboards. So some people love the leaderboard, some people don't necessarily want all the kids showing. So the kids do ultimately have control whether they show up on the leaderboard or not. We certainly don't want anybody that's embarrassed of a score to have that score shown to everybody without them knowing it. So if you go down that that route, would definitely make sure kids are aware of their ability to set to their profiles.
Opt out. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions trickling in. we can probably call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Coming up
I
on
will
that.
be sending along this recording to everyone that registered, even if you had to leave early or weren't able to make it. But as Alex touched on earlier, and Alex, maybe you want to pop in the community through the help tab. All of our recorded webinars can be accessed through your help tab that you all have access to. On this or in this help center, there is an on-demand webinar section, that platform classroom button there. Yep, so if you click that, all of our recorded webinars live here. I'll be posting this one here before the end of the day. So if you want to share it with other staff members, feel free to come here, browse other webinars. They all live here. So thanks everyone for joining us, and be on the lookout for more relevant webinars that we'll be hosting in the coming weeks.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Alex.